The face of the WNBA just reached her breaking point, and the entire league is shaking. Gainbridge Fieldhouse witnessed a total forensic disaster on Saturday night as the Indiana Fever's season-opening celebration transformed into a brutal physical hit job. Caitlin Clark walked into the arena, ready to solidify her throne as the undisputed queen of basketball, but she ended the night limping toward the tunnel as a player betrayed by the league she saved. The final score showed a gut-wrenching 107-104 victory for the Dallas Wings, though the scoreboard tells only a fraction of the story. This was not a standard basketball game, because the footage reveals a psychological war designed to break the league's biggest draw in front of a national audience.
Yo, if you love real basketball stories, deep dives, and the drama behind the game, you're in the right place. But if you want to take it to the next level, hit that join button. Members get exclusive content, early access, and behind-the-scenes drops you won't see anywhere else. Plus, you're directly supporting the channel and helping us bring you even better content. So if you rock with Basketball Spilled, become a member today. Let's keep the game alive.
Saturday night's atmosphere felt electric, yet the tension became combustible from the very first whistle. The Dallas Wings arrived in Indianapolis with a specific plan to bully and intimidate the superstar, and they didn't care about the optics of their aggressive tactics. This was a masterclass in manipulation where the officials became willing participants in a coordinated effort to neutralize the Fever's offense. The breaking point arrived in a moment that has now gone viral and left the league office scrambling for damage control as the truth leaked out. Caitlin Clark was caught on a high-definition hot mic screaming at Wings rookie Aziaha James in a moment of pure, unadulterated rage. Flopping all CKING day, Clark shouted after yet another whistle went against her, and the frustration on her face proved that she knew the game was rigged against her. The officiating crew called offensive fouls on Clark like they were being paid by the whistle, and the crowd watched in disbelief as their star was penalized for merely existing on the court. Aziaha James played the role of the villain perfectly by throwing her body around and acting like she had been shot every time Clark moved in her direction. It was a pathetic display of acting that the referees fell for every single time, and it highlights the toxic reality where stars are punished for being better than their competition. But what the cameras missed during the commercial breaks was even more disturbing for the future of the franchise. Clark appeared to be in significant pain throughout the first half, frequently grimacing and clutching her lower back as she tried to navigate the physical gauntlet. The constant shoving and late hits from the Wings enforcers took a visible toll on her mobility and her shooting rhythm. Then the moment happened that sent a chill through the entire Fever fan base and left the arena in a stunned silence. Clark turned toward the tunnel and walked straight to the locker room in the middle of the game, and the realization that their season could be over before it started hit the fans like a freight train. This was no routine checkup, because the Fever medical staff was working frantically behind the scenes to address what looked like a major physical collapse. Head coach Stephanie White tried to downplay the situation during the post-game press conference, but her own words betray the severity of the crisis. White admitted that the back issue is an ongoing problem that the team is trying to manage, which raises massive questions about why Clark was even on the floor. If the issue is truly ongoing, then the organization is guilty of treating their franchise player like a punching bag just to satisfy their corporate partners. The front office is playing a dangerous game with Clark's health to meet the demands of a massive new national television deal. The league recently announced an unprecedented deal that puts every single Fever game on major networks like ESPN and ABC, but that investment only pays off if Caitlin Clark is healthy enough to play. They're pushing her to the limit, and her body is starting to scream for help, and the trip to the locker room for a back adjustment is the smoking gun. This proves that the Fever are concealing the true extent of her physical decline to keep the ratings high and the sponsors happy. Despite the agonizing pain and the blatant flopping by the Wings, Clark still managed to record 20 points in a performance that should have been legendary. She reached a historic milestone by crossing 1,000 career points in just her 54th game, a feat that cements her place among the greatest to ever play. In a fair world, this would be the lead story on every sports network across the country, but the milestone was completely overshadowed by the chaos and the officiating bias. The league wants the fans to focus on the points, but the real story is the sabotage occurring right in front of our eyes. The officiating felt so one-sided that it appeared to be a coordinated effort to suppress the Fever in their own building. Clark was whistled for 3 offensive fouls, which is virtually unheard of for a player of her superstar status, and the message from the refs was clear. They were essentially telling her that she was not allowed to play her brand of basketball without being penalized. After the final buzzer, Clark didn't hold back when she sat down in the media room to address the loss. "I honestly could have probably got a couple more calls," she told the gathered reporters. And that is a polite way of saying the officials were either blind or intentionally biased. We know the league has a history of silencing her, as evidenced by the $200 fine she received last year for criticizing the refs on social media. The WNBA is trying to bankroll their entire expansion on her back while simultaneously stripping away her ability to defend herself. It is a disgusting display of corporate greed where the golden goose is being plucked while she's still trying to fly. While Clark was struggling with her health and the whistle, Paige Bueckers was on the other side, looking like the league's new favorite child. Bueckers finished the night with 20 points of her own and led the Wings to a victory that the media is already using to shift the narrative. The talking heads are claiming Bueckers is the superior player because she won the head-to-head matchup, but they are ignoring the facts of the final seconds. Bueckers actually missed 2 crucial free throws with only 1.6 seconds remaining, which should have been the opening the Fever needed to steal the game. Instead, the Fever failed to execute their final play, and Kelsey Mitchell missed a desperation 3 at the buzzer. The loss is being pinned on Clark's missed deep 3 with 7 seconds left, but that is a lie designed to protect the bigger stars. The game was actually lost in the locker room and on the referee's whistle long before the final shot was taken. The Dallas Wings are receiving praise for their grit, but what they actually showed was a complete lack of professional integrity on the court. Aziaha James might be a rookie, but she is already a master of the league's broken and manipulative system. The way she baited Clark into that hot mic outburst was calculated and cold-blooded, and it provided the refs with the excuse they needed to take over. The Wings knew that if they could make Clark lose her cool, then the officials would handle the rest of the dirty work. This is the blueprint for how every team is going to play the Fever for the rest of the season, and it involves physical intimidation mixed with theatrical flopping to neutralize the greatest shooter in the world. The WNBA front office is going to let it happen because they are terrified of one player having too much influence over the league's future. The corruption goes all the way to the top of the organization where Commissioner Kathy Engelbert resides. She has admitted that the officiating needs to improve, but the reality on the court shows that nothing has changed for the better. The league is more interested in protecting the status quo and the veteran players than protecting the star who actually brings in the revenue. The Fever front office is just as guilty for this meltdown as the referees and the opponents. They knew Clark was dealing with a lingering back issue, yet they allowed her to play heavy minutes in a game that was clearly going to be a physical war. They are prioritizing ticket sales and television ratings over the long-term health of the woman who carries the entire franchise. This is exactly how you ruin a generational career before it even reaches its peak performance levels. If the Fever keep pushing her like this, she won't even make it to the All-Star break in one piece. The locker room footage details show a player who is physically exhausted and mentally drained by the constant attacks. The joy of the game is being sucked out of her by the constant barrages from opponents who are jealous of her fame and officials who are jealous of her voice. We are seeing the reputation ruin of a superstar in real time, and the media wants to paint her as a winner when she is actually a victim of league politics. The Wings played like a team with a deep-seated grudge that went beyond the box score. They didn't just want to win the game, they wanted to embarrass and physically break the most popular player in the country. Eriko Gunbowl scored 22 points and acted like she was the queen of the court while Clark was struggling just to stay upright. The disrespect in the WNBA has reached an all-time high as the veterans and the other rookies grow tired of the Caitlin Clark show. They are willing to play dirty and compromise the integrity of the sport just to shut down the hype. But the truth is that the league would be absolutely nothing without the fans she brought to the stands. The national TV deal and the sellout crowds are all because of the player the refs are trying to foul out of every single game. It is a parasitic relationship where the league feeds off her fame while trying to destroy the very spirit that made her famous. The evidence is clear in the statistics and the witness statements from the fans who were sitting courtside. Clark was being shoved on nearly every possession without a single whistle from the crew, and the physical abuse was constant. Marina Mabrey-style late shoves were happening right in front of the officials, and they looked the other way every time. It was a coordinated hit meant to send a message to the rest of the league. The Fever are now sitting at 0, and one with a superstar who is one bad fall away from a season-ending surgery. The back adjustment in the locker room was just the beginning of a much larger medical crisis that the team is trying to hide. The league can try to spin this as a great win for the Dallas franchise, but the fans know the truth. They saw the flopping, and they heard the genuine rage in Clark's voice when she finally snapped. They know the truth seekers are the only ones telling the real story about what happened in Indianapolis. The villain in this story isn't just a single player like Aziaha James or a single team like the Dallas Wings. The real villain is the entire WNBA system that rewards acting and punishes actual basketball greatness. The corrupt front office and the incompetent officiating crews are the true architects of this downfall. They are burning the house down just to prove they are the ones in charge of the narrative. Caitlin Clark is a hard worker and the professional who is being sacrificed for the sake of league politics and veteran egos. She crossed the 1,000-point mark, and the league barely acknowledged the achievement because they were too busy finding ways to fine her. The final buzzer in Indianapolis didn't just end a game, it signaled the start of an all-out war. It is a war between the league's favorite narratives and the cold, hard facts that we expose every single week. The Dallas Wings might have a win on the scoreboard, but they lost their dignity the moment they started flopping to get calls. They proved that the only way to stop a player like Clark is to cheat and manipulate the officials. And the Fever proved they aren't ready to protect their biggest asset from the wolves at the door. This season is already spiraling out of control, and the fallout is going to be massive for everyone involved. If Clark's back doesn't hold up through the 44-game schedule, then the entire WNBA season will be a total loss. The stakes have never been higher, and the drama has never been this toxic or this dangerous. The league thought they could control the narrative, but the hot mic changed the game forever. You can't hide the truth when the entire world is watching every single move you make. Caitlin Clark is the warrior in this story, and the league has positioned itself as her primary enemy. The architecture of her ruin is being built by the very people who should be her biggest supporters. Every technical foul and every missed call is another brick in the wall they are building around her career. But Clark isn't going down without a fight, and she proved that when she snapped on the Wings. She called out the flopping because she is the only one with the courage to speak the truth in a league full of lies. The locker room adjustment was a warning sign that the league chose to ignore at its own peril. They are playing with fire, and they are about to get burned by the truth. The investigation into this meltdown is far from over, and we will continue to track every leak and every biased whistle. We will stay on this story until the truth is fully exposed and the villains are held accountable. The WNBA thinks they can silence the fans, but they underestimate the power of the inner circle. We see the flopping, and we see the corruption in every frame of the footage. And we won't stop until the people who are ruining the game are forced to answer for their actions. The final buzzer has sounded, but the real battle for the soul of the game is just beginning. Caitlin Clark is the victim of a league that is terrified of her power and her influence. And if the WNBA doesn't change its ways, soon they will lose the star that made them relevant. The architect of this disaster is the league itself, and they are leading their golden goose straight to the slaughterhouse. The game of basketball deserves better than the SHT show we saw in Indianapolis on Saturday night. It is time for the truth to be the only thing that matters in the world of sports. The final line of a story hasn't been written yet, but the ink is starting to dry on a season of betrayal. If you want to know what happens next, you better stay locked into the inner circle, because the league is about to explode. This is the forensic truth of a superstar under fire, and we are just getting started.